In this tutorial, we're going to break down Resolume's advanced output feature, and we're going to discuss some of the tools and settings that are available to us within that. That way we can level up our projection mapping skills, and we can hop into more of the advanced side of how we set up our displays on stage. So first thing, let's head over to our output tab here. And do keep in mind that if you are using Resolume Avenue instead of Resolume Arena, you're not going to have access to the same set of features that I'll be showcasing in this tutorial. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop into it. You're going to click on this advanced setting here, and that's going to prompt your advanced output menu. As you can see here, we have a few different screens and slices selected. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these really quick, and we're going to talk about screens first. So your screens are going to be your essential, it's your essential component to send over content to the stage. So if you don't have any screens in play, you're not going to have any content on stage. So to add a screen, you're just going to click on this plus icon here. You're going to click on screen. I'm actually going to create a third one because my PC is utilizing 3 separate displays. And we're going to talk about a few different things here. So whenever you click on your screen, if you head over here to the right side of your menu, you can see that we have a device tab here and a drop-down menu. Once we click on that, we're going to see all of the displays that Resolume has available to use. So if you're actually not seeing your display here, that might be because you don't have it set up within your display settings on your PC correctly. So you might need to head over into your PC settings, go over to your display, and make sure that you are either extending your display or that the displays are even active and showing up on your computer. But whatever is active and ready to use, it will be right here in this drop-down menu.
If you enjoy videos like these, we got a full classroom and it's way beyond what we got here on YouTube. Plugins, loops, insider tips and tricks from experienced VJs. Now, if you haven't yet, check us out. We got a week free trial, and let's get back to your video.
So another thing I wanted to talk about is Resolume is actually not able to take all of our screens and send them to the same display. For instance, we can see that screen 1 is sending to display 3. If I click on screen 2 here, and I also try to send to display 3, you can see now that screen 1 is no longer sending to display 3, only screen 2 is. However, what we can do is we can take separate screens and send them to a different display. So for instance, let's click on screen 3 and let's send this to display 1. Now you can see that both screen 2 and screen 3 are sending to different displays, so display 3 and 1 are both active right now. So this is going to be useful whenever you need to send content to different projectors, or let's say you're utilizing a number of TVs or LED walls. Whatever displays you're utilizing, this is how you would send to different ones. Alright, now that we got screens out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about input and output transformation first. So your input selection, this is going to be so this is what Resolume's composition is currently sending. So my Resolume composition has my notch feed here. So if we take our slice within our input selection, let's say that we want to only utilize just my head here. If you want to just capture my head and output that, you would just take your slice and then you would get it configured how you want it here, only covering a certain portion within the input selection. And then when we head over to our output transformation, you're going to see that that's actually what we are seeing is only the head. However, we don't want that traditionally, right? So we're going to want to utilize my entire composition's content. So we'll just make sure that we have 100% of our input selection selected. And now you can see that within our output transformation, we actually have our whole image. But I'm glad that it's only showing 1/4 of this, because this is a good example here. What's actually happening is for the screen or display that I'm sending to, display 3 is actually in a 4K resolution here. So if we click on display 3, you can see that it's 3840 by 2160. That is 4K. But we are only seeing 1/4 of this being utilized. So you can't see on my end, but if I were to show you my display that I'm outputting to, this is exactly what you're seeing. So whatever's in your output transformation, that's what you're going to see. So right now, the screen that I'm sending to, let's say that this was a stage, you'd only see 1/4 of it being utilized, whereas we have a lot of black space around it. So we don't want that, right? We want to be utilizing the whole screen. So a lot of times if you end up on a 4K LED wall and you're like, why is it only showing a little bit of it along the pixel map? All you need to do is just drag and stretch that over. And since that's still a 16:9 ratio, both 1080 and 2160, you're actually still going to be utilizing a 1080, your 1080 content, but you're just mapping it to the, making it over the 4K screen, if that makes sense. So the reason why it's even a fourth in the first place is because our composition is actually sending that out in 1080. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of different things first before we hop into the projection mapping side of things with our edit point mode. Let's go ahead and talk about some some transforming, like moving around the scaling, just moving the slices around. And we're going to break down a few different hotkeys that I like to use for this. And so the first one, let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. The first one I like to use is going to be just holding down shift. And so when you hold down shift and you drag it around, you can see that it's only moving along the X and Y axis here. So directly up or up and down or left and right. So another one that I like to use a lot is going to be how we duplicate things. And that's going to be, we're going to be able to duplicate through Control D is that hotkey. So you can see now that we just created a second slice. And what happened is it just took that slice and duplicated over it. However, let's go ahead and delete that. So if you want to ever delete a slice, you just click on it, hit delete, or you can hit Control Z. So let's say that we don't want to just duplicate on top of that same slice. If we want to accurately place that duplicate wherever we want, you're going to hold down Alt and you're going to drag, and that's going to drag that exactly where you want it. So we can do this as many times as we want. So if we want to create 4 here, you just hold Alt and drag it to wherever you want. But we're going to Control Z those, and we're just going to utilize one slice for now. Another hotkey that I like to use is going to be through the use of scaling. First, actually, let's talk about that snapping feature that you see. I know that you've noticed that. So whenever you have this magnet icon here selected, it's going to kind of just like pop into place, which is actually super useful when you're utilizing, let's say, 10 or more slices, or even just one alone. It's helpful to just pop into place exactly where you want it. And it's a little bit accurate. And if I also take out this content and I move it here in the middle, you can also see that we have a depiction of where things are centered. So the snapping tools are really solid feature to use. However, if you don't want to use the snapping feature and you just want to move your slice around without it snapping, you can actually hold down Control and you can move it around freely like that and it won't snap. And as you can see here, when we do that, that actually disappears up there. But you can also just turn that off and you can just left click it and drag it around that way as well. Alright, so let's talk about some scaling hotkeys now. So if we want to scale the slice, if we hold down Shift and we drag it like this, you grab one of the points and you drag it, it's actually going to constrain the aspect ratio so that it keeps it scaling proportional, right? Because if we just do it this way, which is totally fine, we can just move, we can scale things like that, but what's going to happen is, if I bring in my content, a lot of times you can just accidentally squash or stretch your image. So sometimes it's good to hold down Shift and just scale it proportionally. And then another hotkey for scaling is if we hold down Alt and scale, that's going to scale it proportionally to center. So again, we're going to be stretching and moving things around, but in this case, instead of just doing it from which way we're squashing it or stretching it, if we hold down Alt, it's going to do it from center. And so another one is going to be if we hold down Shift Alt, this is going to scale proportionally from the center as well, but it's gonna scale it. It's not gonna stretch or move it out. We're just scaling it proportionally. So that's Shift Alt. Then we can also utilize our arrow keys to move things, move our slice around. Or if you want to move it in increments of 10 pixels, we can hold down Shift and move our arrow key, and we can see that, yeah, it's moving a little bit faster in increments of 10. And then some other tools that we have to move things around. If we want to play around with our viewport, we want to zoom in or out, you can just use your middle mouse button, and that is going to either zoom in or zoom out. Or if you're just on a laptop and you don't have a mouse on hand, you can actually just hold down Control and press plus or minus, and that's going to do the same thing as well. We can also hold down the spacebar, and we hold down the spacebar and left click to drag. We can pan it around, but we can also just hold down the middle mouse button, and that will pan around the display port as well. You can also just click this icon up here, the hand tool, and you can just left click and drag, and that will do the same thing. So that pretty much covers it for those hotkeys and for our transform mode. So let's get into more of the projection map side of things, and we will hop into our edit points mode. So edit points mode is going to be right here, and you can see now that we have these points activated. Edit points mode gives us access to specific points for our slices, our polygons, our masks. That way we can manipulate them and customize our shapes. So if we were to click on the slice here, edit points, it was still doing that because I still have the hand tool selected. So make sure if you do have that active, you have that turned off, because you won't be able to grab your points around. So this is going to be how we select our point and how we can warp things around, how we can change the perspective of things, and this is going to be how you dial in your output with your projector. Alright, so there's a few different things that we have available to us within point mode. So we can actually switch from our linear point mode to a Bezier point mode, and that's going to be over here. When you click on a slice, you'll have your point mode here. If we select Bezier, that's going to allow us to add curvature to our points. That way, if you have a stage structure that is more circular, we can start to play around with the accuracy here or our slice and make it to where it's more circular in shape. And then again, linear is just going to be straight lines. So that's pretty much the basics of utilizing points here. If we were to double click along let's click first we need to create a polygon first. So I'm going to show you how to create a polygon here. It's going to automatically prompt you to your input selection. And as you can see now, we have this plus crosshair sign. If we press left click, you can see that just created a point, and now we have this line being created. If we create another point here, another point here, another point here, that's pretty much how you create shapes. So you can make any shape you want doing that. And whenever you click, it's pretty nice. Whenever you do that and you get close to the edge here, it's going to automatically snap to that. So pretty cool feature. If you've used MapMapper, it's similar. But yeah, that's how you're going to create polygon shapes. I'm going to take out my content, that way you can see this a little bit easier. So that's how we create shapes. And once you actually do create a polygon here, let's say we want to add additional points here. That way we can kind of fine tune the slice in terms of its shape. You can double click along the path from point to point, and this is going to add additional points on your slice. And so this just gives us a little bit more accuracy and fine tuning the shape however you want it to be. And so sometimes you can get super accurate and add as many as you want. You can zoom in. That way you can have an easier way to super scale it or fine tune it, map it very accurately. So if we want to, let's say we created too many points or we want to get rid of some, what we can actually do is you can just double click them after they're created. Double click on your point and it will remove those points. Another thing that's useful is if you hold down shift and you click on your points, this will select multiple at the same time. Whoops. I don't know what happened there. Back to edit points. Let's shift click a few of these. Now when we shift click that, we are able to move only those points while the other ones stay in place. So that's a super useful way to move a lot at the same time. Alright, so now that we have talked about edit points mode a little bit, let's hop into a few other options we have to create things. So we talked about creating slices, creating polygons. If we want to create an output mask, when we create an output mask, let's delete this other polygon. Oh, we'll bring in this. When we create a mask here, we can actually drag this around and you can see that it masks that content in our input selection that's being used. Right, and so when we do create an output mask, we have a few different options over here. And so you can actually make it a heart, you can make it a square, circle, triangle. Yeah. You can also draw it just as we did our other polygon and mask it that way. Oh, real quick, also we can talk about, we have a couple of different options up here for this grid. If we click on show slice grid, this will show, let's see, this actually creates a grid for us. That way, if I take my content out, we have a pretty clear depiction of things being warped. And so, yeah, it just, it's useful when you're perspective warping for projection mapping. We also have this show 8x8 LED grid. And this is going to add an 8 pixel grid to the screen, which can be useful when mapping LED screens since their dimensions are usually some multiples of 8 pixels. And then we have identify slices. So this allows us to see what slice is selected when we hover over it, because if you have a bunch that look the same or they're on top of each other, sort of, you can, yeah, it just gives you a little bit clear indication of what slice is being used. All right, and then we have, last but not least, we have show in output. And so this will actually send the slice to the output that's going to the screen rather than just showing in the advanced output. So let's head back over here to our transform mode and we're going to shrink this down a bit. I'm going to show you some of the options that we have available to us whenever we right click onto a slice. So we can hit center X, we can center it to Y. If we move this over and we do mirror X, it'll do it on the exact opposite side. Same thing along the Y, it'll just bring it right above it. And we can actually have this slice take over the entire left half. We can do it over the top half, right half, bottom half, and the whole area. And we can even make it a circle. But let's head back over here to edit points. Let's change that back to linear and let's do the whole area. And something I forgot to show you guys earlier. Let's create another polygon here. Let's create like a fucked up triangle, right? All right, so if we right click that, we have the option to make it a perfect triangle. So you just click make triangle and now we have a perfect triangle. So pretty useful. And a couple other things that we're going to discuss are going to be matching the input and output shape. And so this is probably the most used tool I use from right clicking my slices is, let's say that we import our pixel map, which I will discuss in the next tutorial. But we import a pixel map and we have the exact stage replica in terms of our slices. And we just want to move that over once it's dialed in to our output side. We would just click match input shape and it's going to give us an exact replica with the exact positions as our input. And you can do the same the other way around. You can click match output shape. And then last but not least, we have the option to bring our slice forward or backwards. And so let's go ahead and create another slice here. And so what this does is it's pretty much the same thing as how we set up our content within our composition, how the content above will take priority over everything below. With your layers, it's the same thing with your slices. So right now slice 2 is taking priority, but let's say we want slice 1 to have priority. We can do bring forward, and that's going to bring slice 1 over slice 2. Same thing if we want slice 2 to be had priority, we'll just send it backwards. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the advanced output tips and tools. In the next tutorial, we are going to discuss stage mapping, and we'll talk about how to import your pixel maps and to load stage designs, and also how to kind of align your positioning of your slices with the pixel map and so forth. So yeah, I'll be seeing you guys in there, and I hope you guys found this useful as always. Thanks for watching.